Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, me proprietor at the Tenkars Tavern blog. So, there's a voicemail number up on the screen. It is 347-509-5168. Um, I asked for voicemails last week to hear from viewers how they got involved in D&D, what brought them in. Because everybody's experience is different. I like to hear other people's experiences. We got three calls, one from Ontario, all garbled. So, and just to, I had a, I can't play this through my computer speakers because my software will actually not listen to it. But this is what the Ontario sounds like. So we're not going to listen to Ontario. Ontario, can please call back 347-509-5168. I'm assuming that was a problem with Google, that the Google number, you know. But by the way, the importance of that number, not a big secret. 5168 was my shield number when I was a sergeant in the NYPD. When I saw that number was available, I was like, oh, you got to grab it. And I did. And I refused to let it go. So, but we did get a total of three calls, like I said. So, we will play the other two. And I will comment on them.
Hey, my name is Jay Neal, JN3 Storyteller, and I started playing D&D, AD&D First Edition, in January of 1981. I was 19 years old, almost 20.
And actually, from my experience, it seems like people came in their younger teens or they came in as college students. I find that to be pretty interesting.
Not a war gamer ever. Still don't care for it. My DM was not a war gamer ever. But his best friend was and still would be if he could find anybody to play with. The three of us still play almost weekly. We played 3 games in the past 2 weeks.
Which is pretty damn good, actually. That's more than weekly. I am lucky to get in 2 sessions a month.
And yeah, we're still playing one version or another of D20 game, Shadow Dark and Old School Essentials, but wargaming was never a thing for me. So I don't use minis in my D&D games either. So there you go. That's it.
By the way, I don't use minis in my D&D games. I don't use minis in my VTTs. I use a pointer, and I use Fog of War. I reveal the map. The worst thing that we ever did was mapping back in the days. I remember in college, we got to the point where the GM just filled in a map for the players because it was the most frustrating part of playing D&D at that point.
See you later, Eric. Great podcast, great YouTube channel. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Well, thank you. I mean, I do try and listen. I don't even know if this episode's going to get a lot of views because what is it? It's the listener calling, right? But that is important. I believe that the listeners are the reason why, the viewers are the reason why you even have these channels, right? If you're not paying attention to your viewers, your listeners, then what are you even doing? So we got a second call that we can listen to.
Yeah, Eric, just thought I'd drop my thoughts on starting out D&D. So we're talking 1977.
So 77, likely the basic box. I mean, for me, it was that Christmas break between 79 and 1980 with the first edition DMG. So that's kind of like my touch point. But 77, God bless.
In high school, a friend of mine had a set. I'm like, this is pretty good. So I took money from my paper route and other jobs, and I bought myself a white box with Greyhawk, Blackmore, Eldritch Wizardry, and gods, demigods, and heroes.
So basically, he dived all in. That's awesome, right? But isn't that what D&D did or still does to people? You get that bite, and you know you're all in. I'm not going to call it an addiction, but I know I was all in. I couldn't stop talking about it to my parents. I had to borrow that DMG. I read it cover to cover um, while vacationing with my friend Kenny, who was the one who introduced me. It was his Dungeon Master's Guide. I read that thing cover to cover like twice over the 4-day weekend that we were out in Belmar, New Jersey.
Loved it, played it. Of course, those original books got lost between moves and everything else, which is really sad because now they go for insane amounts of money on eBay. But I was immediately hooked, and yeah, it's like came from a deep wargaming background. I've been playing detailed war games for probably 5-6 years, but stepping into D&D, to some extent, I left the wargaming behind.
And I think a lot of this too is timing. If you got into D&D earlier on, you were likely part of the wargaming community because that's what D&D was introduced through. But give it a few years past that initial release time, it had made itself beyond the wargaming community. People were getting introduced to D&D as their first non-board game, non-card game, right? The first role-playing game, their first, like, it wasn't playing Life, it wasn't playing Risk, it wasn't playing Monopoly or Trouble or Parcheesi or chess or checkers. It was open-ended, and that was something totally new.
Different environment, different things you need to worry about. But I'm actually getting interested now in some of the role-playing games that are dealing a little more in the details of combat and things like that. So just thought I'd leave this message and have a good day.
So I would have gotten to this stuff earlier, but I was away in the Poconos, decompressing, which is a beautiful thing. So again, I want to hear more about people's experiences. And if you have questions of me, my co-hosts, this is like one of those opportunities to ask. You got suggestions. I'm not saying I will play all the messages on the air, but if you leave a message and you don't tell me not to play it on the air, there's a good chance it may come up on the air. Like being a guest on the show. All right, folks. That's it for tonight. As always, be safe, be well, God bless, all this ice, well and well. 347-509-5168 if you want to call the show. And tenkars-tavern.games/Gygax for a humble bundle of gaming material that covers everything from D20 to 3rd edition to Castles of Crusades to Call of Cthulhu. There's just a lot of Gygax stuff from Gary, from Luke, from Ernie. If you wanted the Memorial Tomb, this is a great chance to grab it in PDF. So, folks, be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice. Roll them well. Back tomorrow with another video. I'll catch you on the flip side. Good night.